right. Hello and welcome back to another episode of American Pylon, joined here by my friend James Thomas Fanning IV. And we're missing Tyler Combs today. Tyler decided to jet off to an exotic adventure in New York City.
Yeah, he went to New York and told us like 36 hours before we were recording that he wasn't here. So.
It's really inconsistent, so we're going to have to lay down some ground rules on when people are going to notify us if they're out or not, because we really planned on him being here. So
I was really.
He also went with Ed Freeman State Farm, our sponsor. So
that's right, Ed Freeman from State Farm. If you're like me and you're accident prone, and if you're like me and you look for the best coverage, then look no further than Ed Freeman State Farm. Ed Freeman, as I've mentioned before on the show, is the best agent in the state, if not the entire galaxy. So for all of your needs, whether you've got a home, a boat, a car, or a life, go to Ed Freeman State Farm for all of your insurance needs.
Yeah, but don't call him tomorrow or Friday because he'll be in New York City with Tyler.
Good call. Right. Good call. So
let's get right into it. So I think we are going to go a little light on Georgia football this week. That's a little more back and forth for Tyler and I. I know nobody wants to just hear me monologue on Georgia football for 40 minutes, which I would be happy to do. So if you guys do want to hear it, comment, and we'll get it done.
Yeah, but I think that's why we're going to have so much success, because this has actually been a big week for us off the podcast. We went to well, I guess you didn't go, but Dave and I went to a pretty cool concert. We saw Jason Aldean and Hootie and the Blowfish. I was actually there more so for Hootie, if I'm honest, at SunTrust Park. So pretty cool venue.
Yeah, I was just there kind of check it out. I mean, I've seen Jason Aldean
we saw Jason Aldean in college like 5 times.
See, I'm not that big of a concert goer, so for me, it was like, that was only my second time seeing him. But I will say, it was pretty cool. However, they had like a 45-minute rain delay, which actually makes perfect sense because SunTrust Park and the Braves lead the majors in rain delays.
Really?
Fun tidbit of fact, yeah.
Oh,
which is really
a fun
weird.
Fact. What do you know?
So it made a whole lot of sense that would actually happen, but I thought it ended up being a pretty cool concert. Somehow we swindled our way into the Delta Club.
It was free. It was allowed to the public.
Was it really?
People are going to know that, but
I didn't.
I didn't know that. I saw you guys on Snapchat there. I was really impressed.
Damn it, David. I thought we were making ourselves look really exclusive.
No,
we're friends with a lot of people.
We got you guys got your press passes to get you into that.
I was kind of sad because I thought it was going to be like the games when you get in, so beer and wine was going to be free. But even
that was definitely not the fact.
Even hot dogs and hamburgers were like $14. So
yeah, our beer was like,
hey guys, come to the Delta Club. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's like I love going to that stuff, but I hate myself for spending the money when I get there.
Yeah, like when we go to Braves games with the InWeGo app.
Yeah,
which is another one of our sponsors. It's $30 a month, unlimited entry into any events that are on it. It's got Braves games.
Dude, they should be paying me for this shit, because literally everybody that I talk to, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to do this." I'm like, "Have you heard about InWeGo?" Right now, I think it's only in Phoenix, Atlanta, and Denver.
I believe Denver. Yeah, shout out to our Denver listeners. But
it's basically the best thing ever.
But it is fun because you go to a Braves game and you save $9 on a general admission ticket, and then you spend $60 on beer and food that you wouldn't have spent otherwise. So,
but you're also getting much better seats. I mean, I've been to probably 6, 7, maybe 8 games this season, and I haven't sat in anything higher than like a 200 level seat.
Yeah.
So
I mostly go to the Chop House and find Georgia people and talk about Georgia football. But Will and I have sat.
He doesn't get enough of it out of his system while we're here.
Yeah, there's not enough, especially when Tyler bails on us to go to New York.
I have a story about the Chop House. Me and my uncle went there one time, and
this is SunTrust, or this is Turner?
SunTrust.
Okay.
And we were just standing at one of the high top tables, like ordering beer.
Classy.
And and this the guy who was the server was coming around, but he was not like coming around very frequently, and I'm not talking like we were shotgunning like next, like it was a normal sort of event, and so I couldn't find him, so I just went to the bar and ordered, and this guy really wanted his tips, right? So he sees me go to the bar, makes a huge fuss about the whole thing. My uncle was like, "Hey man, like, you haven't been around,
Yeah.
It's one of those things." And the guy starts trying to give our table away to paying customers.
Really?
And like made a whole scene.
It's like a first come, first served. I didn't even know they ran drinks there. I've always gone.
This is at the Chop House?
Yeah.
I got to stand in line for a half hour for a beer when I'm at the Chop House.
Yeah.
Maybe it was.
I didn't know there was another option.
Maybe it was a random guy in a Braves hat. Just
they do that for parking, I'm pretty sure. At Turner Field, I'm almost 100% sure there were multiple times where I gave some guy that found a yellow vest and a Braves hat $20 to park. And he was just like ushering me into a parking lot that he had no authority over.
That's a good business model, though. If I ever am unemployed, I think the investment in the yellow vest is probably the way I'm going to go because people are dumb enough and drunk enough. But that is one thing I will say is that you can't get drunk enough prior to the game because of the lack of tailgating space, which is one thing I would say that I would have loved to have been able to do prior to that concert because now you have to go and spend a whole bunch of money in the battery, which the battery's fun. I mean, yeah, of course. And it provides like a great venue. But at the same time, that's what Turner Field had. They had the lots where everybody lined up and tailgated for several hours prior to, which I really miss.
Turner Field had a fun, I don't even know the word for it, rusticness to it, where it was like, you could go play cornhole and you could tailgate forever in the blue lot or the gold lot, or it was like you could park on Pryor Street and be like, I might die on my way to my car after the game. But it was always an adventure. SunTrust Park, you know what you're going to get.
But in and of itself, it's definitely a better stadium. I know David and I were talking about this at the concert, and I don't want to ramble on too long here, but we were talking about, like, were you really going to miss Turner Field? And I know at the end of the season, I was there for Chipper's last series and stuff, and I was like, damn, this is going to be sad to see it go. The park itself is much better. I think taking away the seats that they did was a good decision because they were never filling up.
Yeah, Turner Field was
the
way too
location
big.
sucked, in my opinion. I hated having to go down there. I don't mind this. Now, there is talk that they're going to extend a MARTA line out there.
Now, that would be a game
I thought the
changer.
residents voted it down, though, because the people that live in
That's just stupid.
Pinky Up, Smyrna, Vinings, they don't want us Atlanta riffraff to be able to MARTA up there for $2. They don't want people like us.
Why make sensible decisions?
Yeah.
Anyways, I thought it was an awesome concert. I don't know that it topped my list for best concerts I've ever seen. I mean, Hootie was pretty far up there.
Yeah.
So
he was good live. Still got it.
What's the best concert you've ever seen? That leads me to that question. Now I got to know.
Yeah. Best concert I think I've ever seen live was probably best artist was probably Drake. I saw him with Future and the Summer 16 tour. Will is not impressed by this right now.
I'm not either.
At Phillips Arena.
Such a shitty best concert.
Jake was amazing. I was underwhelmed by Future. I was more excited to see Future, but Drake, he gets out there and he performs a ton of songs.
What was the ratio to just songs being played in the background and him running around?
Well, that was the thing. Most rap concerts do that, but Drake actually did most of his actual lyrics. And he would play like 2 verses in a chorus of most of his songs. So he was cycling through songs really fast. So there weren't that many songs that he played start to finish.
Okay. So I could support that. I think knowing that now, I would go see a Drake concert.
Yeah, see, that's the thing I didn't like about Future is he gets out there and just kind of like hops around. And then he plays his vocals in the background. And then he'll just be like, you, skirt. And
so they're basically like studio artists.
Yeah, basically.
Mine are random. And it's mostly about how much fun I had versus how much I wanted to see the artist.
That's.
I think my 2 favorite ones, and I'm no fanboy of this group by any means, but Florida Georgia Line in the Georgia Theater was a lot of fun.
That was a different time though.
Yeah,
that was like when
that
they were
was
first
that was
starting.
like the
That was
9-month window when
first
people
CD.
liked
That was
them.
first CD
before they were like the Nickelback of country.
That's a good.
That's exactly what they
nickname
remind
for
me
them.
of.
Yeah.
The Nickelback of country.
I would agree with that.
So that
there
was so
there
much
was like
fun.
a year or so, like our senior year of college, where people couldn't get enough of them.
And I like the just the tight, closed-in, environment. It's
Well, yeah,
not-
Georgia Theater is awesome.
Yeah.
Georgia Theater automatically adds a point to any concert.
And then
Moon Taxi.
Yeah, there you go. Me too.
Moon Taxi.
my second favorite was probably, or I don't know first. I couldn't, it's hard to rank, but Luke Bryan's farm tour when it was in Athens, and we
Yeah.
got to roll coolers right up to the stage.
Yeah, that was in 2011. That was the day before the Mississippi State game.
Yeah, so
I remember that too.
it
That was
just-
fun.
Everyone's just plastered, like
Yeah.
neon plastered. But we were so close to the stage, there was no seats.
It was right there,
we were, and he puts on a show.
That was fun.
So much fun.
And I would say my second place one, which is like going in a total opposite direction of Drake, but would probably be George Strait. I got to see him, and that was more one of, it was 100% the performers. It was a little more low key than like a Drake concert would be. It wasn't quite as lit, but he's just unbelievable live. So I'm really glad I got to see him before he was done touring.
Speaking of lit, I saw Tony Bennett last night.
Oh.
If you don't know who Tony Bennett is, shame on you. Look him up.
You're probably
He's
under
basically-
40 years old.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
basically like Frank Sinatra. Okay, and if you've ever listened to any kind of old timey music, it's pretty much
for our normal listeners out there. Tony Bennett is the guy in like season 6 of Entourage that they go during a day, and when Drama's dating his girlfriend from France and they're filming a music video there, he's in a scene of Entourage. I feel like more people our age would know him from that.
I've
never
deep
really.
on that
People
fact.
know exactly what I'm talking about.
I've never really watched Entourage, I have to confess. So
shame on you.
I wouldn't know
that.
that.
Is awesome.
That also probably shows where my priorities in entertainment lie, because I haven't seen Entourage, but I have seen Tony Bennett.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, that was a good
Will's an
concert.
old
I don't
soul.
know that would top my best. I saw U2 in the Georgia Dome, which is pretty awesome. I know that they're one of those bands, like, you either love them or you hate them. I don't know why you would. I mean, I guess Bono, because he's kind of like this big philanthropist, and it just sort of comes off as like forced.
I was like holier than thou.
Yeah, so I could definitely see that. But I really enjoyed that. When I was in high school, it was a pretty cool treat. It was John Mellencamp, Willie Nelson, and Bob Dylan all at the same concert.
Okay.
So that was pretty cool. Bob Dylan was the last act, and it was. I mean, we didn't even stay through the whole thing because you couldn't even understand him. But I will say Willie Nelson was pretty awesome. So I don't know if I can throw up a number one. Maybe that concert, maybe seeing Willie Nelson, and just saying you saw Bob Dylan, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool. I think he's like a bucket list guy if you don't listen to our parents' music, but you want to sound cool.
So who would be... Okay, so if you haven't seen them, who would be somebody you got to see before you die?
Oh, Post Malone. And I have my tickets to Music Midtown. I'm looking forward to it. I had tickets when he came to Lakewood, but they were going for too much money. I had to sell them. I don't know. Have you guys listened to Beer Bong and Bentleys?
Yeah.
That CD changed my life.
I think
I'm going to get face tattoos now, just like Post Malone. So you guys can watch us on YouTube if you want to see.
I know a lot of pharmacists that have face tattoos. They're not legal pharmacists, but that's what they've always told me every time I call them.
I get really sad because my ideal concerts would have been in the 70s when the bands were actually whole and not like one original member of the band.
So no Demi Lovato?
Too soon, man.
Maybe you got to see her before. Maybe not a concert you see before you die. Maybe before.
Have you read the news, man? All love to Demi in the hospital right now.
Big listener of the show. Demi, we're all pulling for you. Don't listen to the haters. You do you.
Thoughts and prayers to Demi.
Yeah, so I mean, dream concert would be Leonard Skinner with the real Freebird at the end.
Okay.
Pretty much.
I still request Freebird at every concert I go to.
You did.
Nobody ever plays.
The artists love that. They think it's hilarious.
Yeah,
They've never ever heard it.
I have found that
we used to do it at band parties in college and at live shows. And
I've taken that right through
in
my adult life, and
it's a laugh,
like a quarter of a
100%
laugh.
of the time. Yeah.
One day it will works maybe, but yeah, that and yeah, any of the bands from that.
Are the Stones still touring?
Dude,
I mean, that guy's got to be like 75.
I was going to say, your vocal cords have to give out at some point.
Hey, Tony did pretty well, and he's like 91, 93.
Is he really that old? Did you?
He is really
that? Wow,
he is really that
old.
old. I thought he was going to be like 87. He is really that old. And if I'm even able to stand up at that age, that's a win, let alone go out on the stage.
I have no intention of being alive at that age. That sounds terrible.
He was badass. I'll post the videos on our Facebook page. That reminds me, be sure to go to our different social media outlets, like and subscribe. We had a lot of traction, I think, with our lottery ticket, did we not? We had a solid
that was a
15
very
likes.
Guerrilla social media marketing. I think it had approached 10 shares.
Well, joke's on you, because had we have won,
yeah, you guys would have lost.
You guys would have all lost on $422 million or a share of it.
Yeah.
So, joke's on you.
But to close out on the concert thing, because I want to give my parents a shout out, because I'm pretty sure in episode 4 they're like 25% of who is still listening to us.
We're glad to have you.
Yeah, they watch on YouTube. My dad and I went and saw Jackson Browne in Augusta this past year, and that was a really, really cool concert. I know it's my dad's favorite artist growing up, so I was glad I got to see that with him. And I went to a Casting Crowns concert with my mom in high school.
Ooh,
that guy's a good singer. That guy would be a successul singer no matter what genre. They're a Christian band, like a Stephen Curtis Chapman type.
What does that say about me?
Opening for
I saw Skillet in middle school. But yeah, I enjoyed those 2 concerts with my parents.
Awesome. So we're going to move it on. We actually are going to talk about sports today. Yeah. And like we said, we're going to kind of gloss over the UGA, but still stick with hometown teams, and we're going to talk a little bit about Julio Jones. Still in the holdout. this is something that I have mixed feelings about because I think when players are in the league, they deserve to go after and get as much money as they possibly can.
I agree with that.
I mean, their lifetime within the league, you just never know. And, this argument always comes up about, well, these guys are getting paid millions of dollars to play a game. It's like, yeah, but their health, their physical health is on the line. And I remember when Mark Schlereth was on ESPN and he was basically asked about the targeting rules and things like that. And he just went off about how, I put everything on the line and this is my decision to come out here and play. And you're essentially taking money out of my pocket with the fine. So I know that's a little bit of a tangent, but I'm all for people going out and trying to make as much money as possible. That being said, I don't know that Julio has a whole lot of leg to stand on, so to speak. I mean, he signed a 5-year deal in 2015 for just under $72 million, and that was $47 million of that was guaranteed. Now he's coming back. I guess 3 years into that contract, and he's pitching a fit because there are now 8 players that are getting paid more than him. But we see this all the time. I mean,
I mean, and to be fair, I mean, he does. So I totally agree with you. And any player, I feel like you're not going to be in the league that long. A lot of them that, whatever you do after the league, unless you become a really famous announcer, it's just going to be peanuts to what you earn. So I'm all for it. Like, go get your money, get as much as you can. I'm totally agree with that. But I do agree that once you sign, you should play out your contract. Julio, I do see where he's upset that if you look at the guys that are getting paid more than him, you got like Devontae Adams, Jarvis Landry, Sammy Watkins, Brandon Cooks. You have some guys that he's clearly better than, but that's just kind of the nature of how those contracts go in the NFL. I mean, it's almost to answer who's getting paid the most, you almost just have to answer, well, who got paid most recently? Because they're always stacking on top of each other.
Because we saw that with Matt Stafford getting paid, and everybody was like, holy cow, is that guy worth as much as he made? But then we see Matt Ryan topping out in the league this year. Now, I mean, we'll probably talk about it a little bit later, but I think Matt Ryan's probably one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, he's the highest paid one, so however you want to look at that.
But yeah, as a quick rundown, so Jimmy kind of
alluded. Marcus Mariota. I'll say that.
There's some people I work with that get paid a lot that I wouldn't agree with either. So
yeah, that's fair. But the NFL is so merit based. I mean, you don't like.
Yeah, no, I'm totally kidding.
Yeah.
So as a rundown, you've got Antonio Brown making $17 million a year, and then at $47 million guaranteed is equal to what Jarvis Landry got from Cleveland, and then below that, Tampa Bay's Mike Evans is doing just over $55 million.
That's silly. I feel like if you're Julio, you can look at that and be like, really? Like Mike Evans is making that much more than me. But again, you signed the contract.
DeAndre Hopkins, $49 million. Brandon Cooks, 5-year, $80 million extension, and then Julio's set to make 10.5 this season. Now, I read somewhere that that's like the 4th most on the Atlanta Falcons itself. I looked that up and tried to clarify that.
I got that it was tied with number 2. Obviously, Matt Ryan makes the most, and then him and Desmond Trufant have the same cap hit, which is guaranteed money plus what you'll make, assuming you play all 16 games, and Julio has more guaranteed money. Because what I've seen over and over in these mega contracts is they're really only worth the guaranteed money because they kind of front load. So say it's like a $40 million contract with like $20 million guaranteed over 5 years.
But that's the restructure.
Well, yeah, but what teams end up doing is they pay them like all the guaranteed money in 2 years, and then they can cut them with basically with no dead money and not owing them anything in like year 3. So
no, Julio did say that he was willing to sit out the entire season.
I'd be surprised to see that. I think he has $10 million, not 10 million reasons not to do that.
Yeah. I couldn't see him doing that.
I'd take $10 million not to do that.
Yeah. Falcons are suckers. I'll sit out for $8 million. I'll undercut Julio.
Got a solid 40.
Yeah. I'm
in good hands.
I'm an unrestricted free agent.
I wait by the phone, every draft day, and I've yet to get a call, so...
Mm-hmm. That's a bummer. I'm thinking about hanging it up if I don't get drafted in the next 2-3 years.
That's probably a good call.
Yeah.
So, what do we think? Do you think who's going to fold first?
I got to imagine it's going to be Julio.
It's just basically like a game of chicken, right?
Yeah. But Julio, you got to look at it like Arthur Blank. I don't know how many years he has left either. But the Falcons aren't going anywhere. Julio's got.
I hope he's got plenty of years. He's
a really good owner. I think he does a good job. But Julio's got such a set shelf life, whereas the Falcons, are a team, they're a franchise, they're not going anywhere. I think the thing that Julio feels right now is the Falcons have the highest paid quarterback in football. They have the highest paid running back before Todd Gurley's new deal, which we'll talk about. And now he wants to be one of the highest paid wide receivers. So if they do that, they're never going to be able to pay these young defensive guys because they've got a lot of guys on rookie deals playing at a pretty high level and at all three levels. They've got Neal, and they've got Jones, and then they've got Beasley.
It's not like he's coming off of a career year last year.
Yeah, but I think that the thing that he's looking at is saying the Falcons have got to look and say there's no way we can pay all these defensive guys, whether or not we pay Julio. So there's no way that this level of defense is sustainable for that long. So he's calling the bluff that the Falcons are in total win now mode, that they'll overpay, because there's no such thing as overpaying if you win a Super Bowl.
Do you think they're in win now mode?
I think they've got to be. I mean, unless they are really going to, I mean, what's the defense going to be like when they can maybe afford to sign one guy, city pick, this really good run defending safety or
so they're just banking on like we're just going to outscore every opponent that we've got.
Well, no, they're banking on their defense is really good because these guys are playing for peanuts because they're rookies. So I'm saying they've got another like 2 or 3 years, or they're not rookies, but they're on their rookie deals. They've got another 2 or 3 years before they're going to have to, restructure some of these offensive contracts. They're going to have to let some of these defensive guys walk. So I think they're in win now mode in that if Julio feels that if he's a veteran that is a major part of the offense, that the Falcons might just fold and say, forget it, we'll pay him whatever he wants. And again, if the Falcons won a Super Bowl, then you could never say anybody overpaid if you won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the way everybody looks at it. The craziest deal in the world, if a team ends up winning, is going to be like, well, it was worth it because we won.
Yeah. I would love to just be kind of in the mix of these text messages and conversations between Julio and his agent and the front office, because I just think that would be such an incredible dynamic to hear. I mean, I wonder what his agent's play is. And now, because I think if he doesn't report to training camp, he stands to lose like $47,000
or something care about that
a day or whatever it is for every day that he doesn't report. So do you see him missing any regular season games?
I don't know. I mean, he's got $10 million guaranteed, and he's only got $2.4 million coming from his actual game paychecks. So I guess I misspoke earlier when I said he has 10 million reasons not to sit out because that money's guaranteed. So
is that prorated though?
Like that is prorated. He's going to earn $2.4 million over 16 games.
Now, does the preseason factor in, or is that a part of
preseason and playoffs? You play for free, is my understanding. And injuries, you still get paid for, but suspensions,
so they can get
lose
fined for training camp, but he's basically not losing anything preseason.
Not out of his prorated salary, which is the part of his salary that is coming from money earned by playing.
So maybe he's just figuring like I'm going to hold out until the regular season starts, and then they're going to fold first.
I guess so, but what would folding look like? By paying him, or him just showing up and basically getting to skip all of camp?
Yeah,
I mean, he wants to get paid, but it'll be interesting to see if they. I don't know, because
do the Falcons have any leeway to put in a clause for restructuring, like early next season?
I mean, I'm sure they can do whatever they want as long as both parties agree to it. So maybe that's what they'll come to, is that everything will stay the same, or maybe Julio would even be willing to take a pay cut this year, but shorten his contract and make it like a show me year.
Yeah.
So maybe that would be like a win-win for both sides.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's past. So if they cut him this year, then they stand to lose $10 million because it's past June 1st, which is when all guaranteed money stays guaranteed. So
yeah,
and he's got that $10 million check coming no matter what.
I mean, it's a selfish outlook for me being a fan, and because like I said, two sides of me. It's like I want these guys to get paid, but at the same time, like this is such a distraction that I hate to see in the locker room.
Yeah.
And I got to imagine that the coaches and the rest of the players on the same. I mean, there's other people in the league that are feeling the same way, but they don't hold out for that kind of. When they're in the middle of a contract.
For example, like Marcus Mariota is only going to make $4 million this year as compared to Matt Ryan's $30 million, but he's not complaining. He's got his head down. He's working. He's trying to win a Super Bowl. Never mind the fact that he's still playing on his rookie contract. It's because
I don't remember when is he up for a new deal?
He is entering his fourth year of basically a 5-year contract. So they picked up his 5th year. So it'll probably be next off season that it typically gets done because everything gets done a year. So he may.
Do you think he's going to jump to the highest paid?
I don't know, because it'll depend on when they do Wentz's deal in Philadelphia. He's younger, So, and then Goff is in line to get paid too. So, I mean, there's like a changing of the guards going on at quarterback right now that I think, the Matt Ryans, the Tom Brady's, the Aaron Rodgers, those guys they're not out of their primes by any means, but they probably have gotten their biggest contracts they're going to get.
Yeah.
And you're going to see the new wave of the next generation of quarterbacks coming in. But yeah, I mean, last year Mariota had a bad year, but we brought in a new offensive coordinator, new head coach. He had 2 good years, by rookie standards to start. So if he makes a big jump this year, I think we've seen that it's easier to overpay for a good quarterback than to keep drafting quarterbacks who are hopefully good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Joe Flacco, I think, is like the 5th highest paid quarterback in the NFL. So that's a perfect example of them being like, this is good enough. He's not going to lose us games. We'll build the team around him. So, I mean, I would say if I was having a bet either way on Mariota, I'd say he'll get his long-term deal and stay a Titan.
So speaking of building teams, if you had to start a new NFL franchise and you could pick any player to start an NFL franchise with, now taking age into account, who would you pick?
Probably after the season he put together last year, I might take Wentz out of Philadelphia. He played at a really, really high level, and he's so young. Goff played well, too. It just depends on how long your outlook is. Because if you're saying, like, I want to win a Super Bowl in the next 3-4 years and be competitive for the first 5 years or whatever, then I'd probably still go Aaron Rodgers. I think he's still firmly in his prime, and he's got a lot of time left. But to me, it would probably definitely be a quarterback.
Yeah, I don't think you could go any. I mean,
what would you do?
Probably go with. I mean, I'd like to be a coach player, so I feel like I could start a franchise just around myself.
Yeah, there you go.
Build up from there. So
I would be the GM.
Low key pitch for myself.
10 Super Bowls.
I don't know. Maybe Derek Carr. I mean, I guess he's 26 years old. He had a below average first couple of years, but he's gotten better every year since. And I think he was rated the 6th best quarterback. And since he's being so young, I think I would probably go with him.
All right, that's fair. He did say when he got his $100 million contract that the first thing he bought with it was Chick-fil-A. So
did he really?
Yeah, I like that about him. I think that's pretty cool.
Do they have Chick-fil-A in Vegas?
I don't know about Vegas. I know they have it in San Francisco. They have Taco Bell in Vegas that serves beer.
When I was in Chicago,
Vegas guy,
wait, they have what?
Taco Bell that serves beer
in Vegas.
In Vegas on the Strip. Yeah,
that's a game changer. I've never been to Vegas, so I feel like now I have to go. I'm not even a big gambler, but the fact that they serve beer at Taco Bell.
Yeah, you can bring beer to Taco Bell in Atlanta, and they won't say anything though. So that might save you.
Is that like a company stance, or is that just you've done it and they didn't say
I've
anything?
never done it. I just don't feel like anyone that works at Taco Bell cares enough.
So that's
to
a
tell
hunch.
People that's
okay. We neither endorse
enraging.
nor encourage you to do that. Jimmy's speaking.
I'm speaking totally
no
out of
knowledge
turn
to
right
stand on this. So whatever you do not take a fifth of liquor or a case of beer into a Taco Bell and expect everything to be fine. Just know that Jimmy or somebody he knows has done it.
And if you get in trouble for it, call it Ed Freeman State Farm.
Ed Freeman State Farm.
He's not a lawyer.
Well, he probably knows one.
He probably does. But
yeah.
So all right. So I'm going to bring this train back on the track, and we're going to talk about criteria that should be used for the best team in any sports. And I'm actually going to bring in some outliers for individual sports, mainly tennis and golf. But are we using championships as the ultimate benchmark for success, or are we using wins? Or, I mean, because you always have those teams that it's like, holy cow, they have outperformed everybody else that they've played, but for some reason or another, they didn't either win a championship or didn't make it to the championship game.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like, it's got to be championships. Championships is what it's all about. You've got teams that in baseball, sometimes that the way they're built, they're really, really good over the course of a season for whatever reasons that David can expand on. But then we get into a 7-game series against, a good team that has either really good hitting or really good pitching. They just kind of wash out. So it's got to be championships. To me, the thing that's the question is how far back can you go? Because I know, like in hockey, there was only 16, like the original six. So you've got teams that have a bunch of championships, but I think like the Toronto Maple Leafs haven't even made the Stanley Cup playoffs in 50 years or something, but then they've got some championships. And I'm quoting my friend and coworker Kyron Ochaki on that. So if that's wrong, you guys can tweet
I
at
think
Kyron.
the Maple Leafs have been to the playoffs, but as far as lifting the cup, I think you're definitely correct on that.
And you got like the Yankees who won a bunch like in the 30s. So does a Yankees fan really have a leg to stand on?
That's before they even integrated
like,
the league.
Yeah. So I mean,
how fair really is that?
There were some.
You weren't even playing against.
It was a totally different league.
The best athletes.
And so can a Yankees fan really be like, oh, we'll count the rings?
It's a bunch of white guys that sat around and drank and smoked cigars, and they just happen to have a monopoly on the sport because they wouldn't let anybody else play.
Doesn't Notre Dame have some like asterisk championships?
Alabama does. Alabama's claimed championships from years where they were like 8-4, and the AP ranked them like number 27, and they were just like, oh, we're the champions this year.
That's like UCF.
Yeah, but that was awesome. I liked that UCF did that. I bought
Jim is all about.
I was about it. I just downstairs. I'll wear it for the next.
They
podcast.
made rings, didn't they? And they had like a freaking
I think
parade.
They did. They had a parade, which was hilarious.
That is a power move. I will give them that.
If Georgia had won the championship, then I would have been like, no, that's so dumb. Georgia's the champion. But since Bama technically won,
that year is still in dispute.
Yeah, I was straight on board for UCF Golden Knights. Those are my champions.
I'll support that. What I'll say about baseball, though, and I'm probably going to catch some flack, but David will probably agree with me, is I think it is so much harder to win the World Series than it is to win a championship definitely in basketball, in my opinion. Football is probably the next most difficult sport, but I think baseball tops it as far as, because you can have an absolutely unbelievable regular season, but that season is so long. The war of attrition, and again, I mean, you can talk about football because you have major playmakers that go down with injury, and then you're left without a major weapon. But for that long of a season and having to go that many games with that many series, I don't know. What do you think, David? I've got to say that baseball's got to be the hardest thing. So if you have a powerhouse team, I think you have the most leeway of saying that was the best team or they had the best franchise for this number of years but didn't come away with a championship.
I think it's a good point. I don't know if you can definitively come to a conclusion on that, but what I would say about something like the World Series,
that's what we do here, though, is we definitively come to conclusions without any basis for evidence.
Hot takes.
I'm just the camera guy. What I would say about baseball versus something like basketball, right? Basketball, you've got your 5 guys, and unless something crazy happens, you've got your same 5 guys every night when you go out there. Mm-hmm. So you've got the same group of people, you've got the same sort of expectations of, what you're going to be held to and, what to expect. But with baseball, there's a little bit of a strategy to it, right? Because you've only got a certain amount you can't just throw your best pitcher 7 games in a row.
Yeah. You could, but his arm would fall off.
That's why the American League is stupid. And this is a tangent, so I'm not going to go into it too much. But designated hitting is so stupid. I think that the pitchers should absolutely have to hit because that's a major part of the game. Like, what other sport do you not have to play defense and offense?
Football.
But I'm saying like those. Okay, the
entire defense is a designated hitter.
What I'm saying,
the entire offense is a designated hitter.
Like basketball.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's not like I'm only a shooter unless you're James Harden. But like,
nice
topical.
I should have been more specific when I'm saying that. But like, if you look at basketball, a sport like that, where every player in every other position and the other half of the league is expected to do it, I think it's dumb that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, we're all Braves fans. We're National League guys, so we watch.
Yeah, because the American League's stupid.
Yeah.
Anyways, David, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
The DH, but
no, it's fine. It's totally fine.
Good.
All right, keep it professional, guys.
I feel like just like baseball is so much of like I mentioned before, like an individual sport. Yeah. You've got your whole team out there, but the ball's only going to one person or in one person's possession. I guess that's the same way with most sports, but it's not like that, quick pass type.
Because in football, like on a running play where the left tackle doesn't touch the ball, he's still involved. Like if somebody flies out to right field, the left fielder literally did nothing in that play.
Yeah, so I think when you get into the playoffs and you get into the World Series, you've got your pitching matchups, and I think that's a huge thing. Who's going to have the advantage as a pitcher, and is your offense and your defense going to hold your back? I just think there's a lot more variables. I don't know which one's harder. I just think there's a lot more things that are, should be in your control, but are also out of your control as an individual on that team.
Yeah, I would agree with that in terms of like it would be maybe the hardest sport to be a GM or to be a manager and kind of build a team from scratch because you have to. you have a different pitcher every night in such a long season. Teams get hurt and stuff. Whereas I'm pretty sure I could have coached Golden State to a championship this year. I'd just be like, do basketball, guys. And they still would have won 70 games, and they still would have, however many they won, and they still would have been champions.
Yeah, so when they went 73-9, right? And then didn't win the championship.
So that's a good argument.
So, I mean, are we going to say that they weren't the best team in the NBA?
I think it was because that was the year they blew a 3-1 lead. So, they were the best team in the regular season that year, but I guess your question is like, are they up there with like one of the greatest teams of all times, like those mid-90s Bulls and stuff like that, and like older Lakers teams?
I don't know if I would even say.
Get mad at me for not knowing that.
I mean, like, so let's just look at that one season.
Yeah.
Like, would we say that they weren't the best team that season because they didn't win the championship?
Yeah, I would say that. I would say Cleveland was the best team that season.
What are even championships? Let's get philosophical here.
I'm just asking because like the East is so weak. And the road that you have to take to get there. So I think also the amount of effort having to be exerted.
Basketball. Nobody plays defense until the playoffs, per Brent Johnson, because I don't watch the NBA ever. But so I think like in the playoffs is when you can really start. Like you can take an aggregate of the whole season. Obviously, if a team wins 73 games or whatever it was, then like they're a very good team. But the playoffs is when people start really playing 100% of basketball. They're playing their best defense. Their best players are staying in for, as much as they can. They're not taking entire games off because their back hurts or whatever. So, I would say the fact that who wins the championship inside of that playoff format to me is more important than an overall record.
Yeah.
Plus, I love an under. I love when like a 6 seed makes it to the finals and stuff, no matter what the sport is. I think that's fun.
I mean, I think it's just part of the game. It is what it is. Like, if I won the championship...
The NBA is broken.
If I won the championship, I won the championship. You got to be better that day that we're both there,
yeah.
Or you lost. Dang,
that was a lot of cliches.
I don't know. I don't know how else to feel about it. Otherwise, championships don't matter. It's like, okay, let's play 100 games. All right, who won the most? Well, that was fun. Not really,
I guess. But you could look at like an individual sport like tennis or golf, and say like Roger Federer goes down in the finals against some no-name guy. I mean. Are you going to say that guy has had a better season than Roger Federer because he beat him in one match and may have had a much easier draw getting to Roger Federer?
No, but
probably.
That's
it's probably
like a
unlikely.
7-game series with multiple people on both sides.
Yeah, I would say anybody that's not like a giant Roger Federer fan or whatever is people don't remember who came in second, who came in third, who was the national championship runner-up in 2004 for college football. I don't know.
Yeah,
nobody knows.
Not
even Wikipedia knows. I tried to look it up before the show. It's blank.
There's some fans out there that know who lost.
Yeah.
It's probably
I don't know. All I'm saying is you can look at the body of work. I guess it's different for something like individual because you look at their career as a whole, and I think wins and losses are much more telling because it's.
Because Roger Federer, but he's at that level because he has won so many championships. What if Roger Federer was like the best player in the world over the course of seasons? That I guess a tennis season is a thing. But then every time he got to Wimbledon, he lost in like the second round. People wouldn't be like, "Oh, but he is the best regular season tennis player of all time." So he has a bunch of championships, and that's why he's considered. So he's allowed to let one slip by him every once in a while and not lose his clout.
For the longest time, he hadn't won a French Open because he was running up against Nadal on clay. And so I don't think I would look. I don't think I would look at Roger Federer's career if he had never won a French Open. I don't think I would look at his career and say he wasn't as good as Nadal because Nadal had like 7 Roland Garros wins. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, I guess we just agree to disagree on that because to me the French Open is like the benchmark of your clout as a tennis player.
But yeah, I don't know.
But
to be fair, like this is a completely different argument because we're talking almost about like completely different game styles. I mean, when you go onto a basketball court, like it's the same surface, everybody's shooting on the same hoops. So that is a bit of an unfair argument, a little bit different. I'm just kind of throwing another thing into the mix, I guess.
Yeah.
Just to say, like, I could look at the body of work of that athlete throughout the season and say, like, if they had won that many tournaments or that many matches, but didn't come through, is it not that they're not the best tennis player, or they just choke in the big moments.
I mean, maybe I'm just like brainwashed by like I just love, we have like March Madness, and we have now the college football playoff, and we have the NFL playoffs and the World Series and stuff like that. But when I was talking to Tyler about soccer a few months ago, and like the Champions League overseas or whatever the other
EPL.
Yeah, EPL, I guess. There's like a regular season champion that they crown based on points throughout the season, and then they have a tournament at the end of the season. And so you can have two different champions, which when I heard that, I was like, that's dumb. Who cares who wins the regular season?
I think that's
be about the
cool.
tournament at the end.
Yeah.
So you could argue it both ways.
It almost sounds like a participation trophy to me.
I agree. I mean, it's win when it counts.
2v1, next subject.
Yeah.
I will say that there needs to be, I think there should be a form of relegation to avoid tanking. This is like something
in the NBA. Are you talking about, or in what sports?
I'd say it's definitely easier to tank in the NBA, and you have more to gain by tanking because one player makes such a difference.
Yeah, I mean they have the lottery. I guess would be the NBA's answer to that. It's not a perfect answer, but that would be how they say it avoids.
Yeah, it should be like the worst team has to go play in like the D League.
Yeah, but the worst team in the NBA would destroy everyone in the D League.
But that's just like, do you guys want to play in the D League? Then if not, you better suck it up and start.
Yeah, it would be cool.
Back
it would be
defense.
cool if there was enough
I just think it would be
where they were close enough that I agree. I think that is a cool incentive or decentive in
or
European
just for God's
soccer.
sake, shorten the season and make it matter more. Like when there was the strike and they had a shortened season, I mean, there was less games to play. So wins mattered more. So those guys had to put out more effort and actually try. I think that was probably the most
that's less
entertaining
home
season.
games for each owner, though. I feel like that's who's controlling
I'm
that.
looking at this as a selfish,
just as a fan. That's a better way to look at it. As a selfish fan that wants the best product on the court every single night, I would totally agree with you.
Yeah, and if I was somebody that had season tickets, I damn sure would be wanting to see that.
Yeah. I mean, as long as they move the price down to reflect that there was less games, I'd be okay with that. Yeah,
that's true. Something that we had talked about, I mean, it's pretty easy to talk about when you have a team that you root for in the SEC. I think it probably translates more to college football, but we talk a lot about other teams' fan bases. We mentioned your guys' trip up to Notre Dame and how great the fan base was there. Typically, it seemed like they were pretty accepting from what you guys had said, and they were inviting you guys over and having a good time. What has been some of the fan bases that you've run into that are just the absolute worst?
Oh, the absolute worst.
I know what Jimmy's going to say.
I'm not going to say Auburn. Do you think I was going to say Auburn?
No,
Everybody always thinks I'm going to say Auburn. I actually love Auburn's fan base. I love their campus. I love going out to the Plains for games. I hope their football team loses every single game, every single year. Still have not forgiven Nick Fairley for 2010, but Auburn fans, in my experience, are great. Maybe it's because it's where I grew up.
I knew it.
Yeah, just to me, like, we should talk about this on a later podcast because we're running out of time and I have more than 5 minutes worth of stuff to say about this, but...
Well, we have plenty of things to cut out of this episode. So just
okay, that's
keep
fair.
going. We'll get
Tennessee fans to me are just frustrating because like I have conversations with my friends from high school and stuff. I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee. My parents live like 6 miles from campus, and then I went to Georgia out of high school. Who will say that just like Tennessee is a blue blood program that is like basically up there with Alabama as far as history and Notre Dame, and like Georgia is a little brother program that is having our time in the sun right now, but eventually it'll all go back to normal and Tennessee will be on top of the world again. And it's like, dude, you guys haven't won the SEC in 20 years. The last 3 coaches you've had have either jumped ship for a better program or gotten fired because your fan base isn't patient. Well, those coaches were terrible, so they were never going to turn the program around. But I don't think the fan base is patient enough that like they don't realize that they've fallen to a second-tier program. They're a stepping stone program right now. They're not a destination, but they don't understand that. They're not willing to be patient enough for a coach. Like they're realistically, wherever they are right now, they're 2 coaches away from being good again. Just like you could argue that Mark Richt was our stepping stone coach. Like Georgia was so in the dumpster when he got here and he brought us to new heights, but he was never going to get us over the hump. And Tennessee needs a guy like Mark Richt.
You don't think he could have had the opportunity? I mean...
He never did. We gave him 15 years. And it was slipping
some of that was
end.
Fluky.
Yeah, but his best years were behind him. He had gotten kind of lazy in recruiting. He was delegating
he's
too much away.
He's in Miami right now.
Yeah, and he needed a change, and I'm happy for him. I'll root for Miami every game they play, unless they're playing Georgia.
He's like part coach, part preacher down there.
But, I mean, I think that
they needed him.
He took Georgia from bad to good, almost great, and we're hoping Kirby's going to be the guy that take us from almost great to truly elite to a championship. In Tennessee... in their mind, they're already great, and they're 1 coach away from being elite, which it to me is just delusional when you look at the talent that's on their roster, and Knoxville's not really much of a college town, and to me, I mean, compared to like Athens or even like like Oxford, Mississippi, or an Auburn or like Clemson, the schools that they're competing with, which I'm getting away from the fan base now. Now I'm talking about the program, but sorry, but the schools that they're competing
Didn't feel
with,
me kicking his leg.
yeah, the school that they're competing with to bring in talent, I don't think they're in a great spot right now. I've just had some poor experiences in Knoxville when I've been there as a Georgia fan. I've had some people be pretty mean to me.
That's fair.
Also, Columbia, South Carolina. I'll never go back there. Their fans
Well, it's
were
just
fine.
that
town just sucks.
city. It is terrible.
Yeah, their fans weren't that bad. It just I didn't leave anything there, so I never need to go back.
I'm gonna go on a wild card on this one. Normally, I probably would say Florida, not because they've been terrible to me, but just screw Florida.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'd have to say the ones that annoyed me the most, like when I was a student, was Georgia Tech.
Really,
Being in the stadium again, not that they were.
This is in Athens,
Or wherever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Anywhere, and it's not that they, anything happened or they were like bad fans or whatever. They were just kind of annoying. Like you get in the game and they'd start the whole, all the stuff that goes on between Georgia and Georgia Tech. We'll be your bosses one day. Like,
Yeah,
I
it's
just
so
have to work for an
smart.
engineer.
Yeah, me neither.
We're so smart. Yeah,
Engineers work for other engineers.
But during the game, they'd be talking crap and stuff, and it's like, guys, we're going to be gone by like the first quarter. So I guess get it out now, I suppose. If you're going to do it, it's just kind of annoying. Because they have their rivalry week. Can't say that phrase. I don't think anybody can.
Rivalry week, yeah.
And it's like it's so big for them, and
It's their Super Bowl, and like I feel like
It's so funny.
us personally, like I don't know very many Georgia fans under the age of like 50 that really care about Georgia Tech, because by that point in the season, we're done with the SEC play. So either we won the East and we're kind of looking forward to the SEC championship and not just trying not to stumble over Tech, or we didn't win the East, so we're kind of like, well,
next year.
Yeah, like we're already looking forward to it's next year, and it's like, okay, well, like we'll beat Tech so that we're state champs or whatever, even though no one cares about that except for Tech fans. But
I mean, if you run the triple option, I can't take you seriously.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They were.
And the Tech fans that I knew in college also came to Athens like all the time, and they'd always be talking crap about Georgia the whole time. It's like, dude, why are you here?
Way
to
more
March?
fun.
Yeah, There's no reason
really
for you to be
think
standing in Silver Dollar with me right now, like telling me how terrible Georgia is. Like, go back to Atlanta, go to the varsity or whatever you guys do.
Yeah, that's a good one, David. I am going to go with Florida because they are the worst. I don't think that I hate any other team more than Florida, and I think it's just because they had Tebow and they had those years where they were so
the Tebow
good.
years were hard for us to put up with.
And it's funny because I hated Tim Tebow like with a passion, and it's like it's hard to hate a guy that's like supposedly, from everything that I've heard, genuinely like a good guy. So it's harder to hate somebody. Like you want him to be like a shithead villain, but there he is like praying and having Bible verses like on his face, and I'm like,
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to hate those years with him, but I hated everything that came along with Florida, and those are the fans. I mean, the years that we spent and went down to Georgia, Florida, and we're around their fan base, I think it just left a terrible taste in my mouth forever.
Yeah, I will say, I think there's
Yikes.
probably more like Florida fan riffraff at Georgia, Florida than there is Georgia fan riffraff, just because the game is in Florida, so it's easier for. In my experience, like when we would have a home game in Athens, you'd get the kind of the cream of the crop that would come to Athens from the other school's fan base, because it's expensive to travel to go see games. So I was really proud of how like Georgia fans traveled and conducted themselves from what I saw, and it was super friendly in Notre Dame, because you didn't have just like a bunch of sidewalk fans that are just showing up and getting too drunk and don't even have a ticket to the game like you probably have in Athens. I mean, I'm sure every fan base kind of has their bad eggs. So
Talking about Notre
That
Dame.
definitely happens in Athens.
well, I'm saying like I mean I've seen people in Athens that are supposedly Georgia fans, but which you don't have to go to Georgia to be a Georgia fan. That's fine, but they clearly don't have a ticket to the game. They have no intention of watching the game. They're just getting drunk and barking at people, and it's like, dude, you're embarrassing the red and black right now. Mm-hmm. And so I think every team is going to have people like that
for sure.
at their home games, and it's more of a home game for Florida. So that might be why it feels like their fan base isn't like as well represented or
I'm telling you,
doesn't put its best foot forward as much.
In podcasts too. That's why I was saying it was such a different environment at Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech.
It was just friendly.
It was just
like,
yeah.
Man, how long till basketball?
There was
season?
no barking.
You guys want to do some math?
Hey, check out my new drone I built by hand.
Yeah, if you're a
Different.
Georgia fan and you're in Athens and you're barking at other fans, stop. You don't look cool. You make all of us Georgia fans look bad. Cut it out.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Well, we're glad that you guys were able to join us today on this podcast.
We might go over some of these topics more in depth when we have Tyler back. And
but it was fun to address some of the stuff a little bit outside of the norm and kind of hit on some random topics.
If you're still listening at this point, shoot me a text and I'll buy you a beer.
Don't shoot a text, comment.
Yeah, comment if you made it all the way
like,
through.
subscribe, and share. But once again, I want to say thank you to all of our viewers and our listeners. It's been a great podcast. Glad to have you from Jim, David, and Will. So long. We'll see you next time on another American Pylon. Go Dogs.